Imagination is not a fleeting daydream or idle fantasy. It's the foundation of everything we experience. Every structure, invention, and achievement in the world began first in the unseen realm of imagination. Before it was ever touched, built, or manifested, it was imagined. This is not coincidence. This is the law at work. The mind is the workshop of creation, and imagination is the tool by which we shape reality. When we close our eyes and vividly picture an outcome, when we feel into that vision with emotion and conviction, we begin a process that inevitably moves that vision into the physical world. This principle isn't about wishful thinking. It's about understanding that consciousness is the only reality. What you accept and occupy in your inner world, what you continuously imagine with belief and emotion, has no choice but to take form. Your current life circumstances are a reflection of your past imaginings, whether you were conscious of them or not. If you constantly imagine defeat, rejection, or failure, life must mirror that. But if you take control of the faculty of imagination and deliberately picture the success you desire, paired with the feeling that it is already yours, you shift your entire reality from the inside out. Imagination sets the blueprint. Reality follows. The world cannot help but conform to the dominant images held in your mind. Every time you imagine something vividly and feel it deeply, you are planting a seed. It may not grow overnight, but it must grow. It must express itself. The outer world rearranges to match the inner world you consistently dwell in. You are not waiting for life to change so you can feel different. You are changing how you feel and imagine, and life must respond. So when you imagine something beautiful, hold to it. Return to it. Feel it often. Walk around in it mentally. Make it real to yourself, because it is. What you imagine with sustained belief becomes your experience. This is how reality is shaped. Not from outside in, but from inside out. To live from the end means to mentally and emotionally occupy the state of your desired outcome as if it were already your present reality. It is not about hoping something will happen or wishing it might come true. It's about assuming that it already has. In the inner world, time and space do not function the same way they do externally. The future you long for exists now in the realm of consciousness, and your task is to align yourself with it by feeling, thinking, and acting from that end point. When you live from the end, you bypass the limitations of current circumstances. You no longer concern yourself with what is lacking or what appears to be missing, because you are no longer living in the space of wanting. You are living in the space of fulfillment. You carry the energy, the confidence, and the peace of someone who already has what they desire. Whether it's a relationship, a career, a healing, or a personal transformation, you go within and assume that it is already done. Feel it deeply, you know it, and you rest in that knowing. This state of being is not something you visit occasionally. It becomes your dwelling place. You wake up in it. You walk in it. You go to sleep in it. Even if the outer world shows no evidence, you remain anchored in the inner conviction that it is already yours. The mind may argue, the senses may contradict, but none of that matters when you understand that your assumption, maintained consistently, will crystallize into fact. You are not trying to make it happen. You are being the version of yourself for whom it has already happened. And from that state, thoughts, behaviors, and decisions flow naturally. You no longer chase the dream. You express the result. You may find that people, events, and opportunities begin to move in ways that align perfectly with your assumption, but that is not your focus. Your only job is to remain faithful to the end you've chosen. Living from the end is not pretending. It is choosing a deeper reality to identify with, the one you want to experience, and remaining there in thought and feeling until it hardens into physical form. The world you experience around you is a mirror, constantly reflecting the state of your inner consciousness. It is not separate from you, not random or chaotic. It is an outpicturing of what you habitually think, believe, and feel within yourself. The outer world bends itself to match your internal assumptions, whether those assumptions are deliberate or unconscious. This truth can be liberating or confronting, depending on how aware you are of what you've been entertaining internally. If you hold beliefs of limitation, lack, or unworthiness, life must reflect those back to you through circumstances, people, and events that confirm them. If you carry persistent thoughts of fear, worry, or resentment, your environment will offer you situations that echo that inner discontent. But the same principle works in the opposite direction. When you shift your inner state, when you cultivate peace, confidence, love, and abundance, life begins to reflect those qualities outwardly as well. The transformation of your world doesn't begin by fixing things externally. You don't need to manipulate circumstances or wait for people to change. You only need to become deeply aware of the states you dwell in most often, because they are the true cause of what unfolds around you. The moment you change your inner assumptions, you initiate a change in your outer reality. This is why people who radiate joy seem to attract joyful experiences, and why those who constantly expect the worst seem to find it at every turn. This is not about blaming yourself for your circumstances, but empowering yourself to recognize the source of your creative power. What you feel to be true, what you accept in your imagination and hold as reality within, eventually takes form outside. Life doesn't respond to wishful thinking. It responds to dominant states of consciousness. When you begin to align your thoughts and emotions with what you truly desire, your environment reshapes itself to match. It is not magic, it is law, simple and unchanging. Your inner world sets the tone, and the outer world becomes the echo. Assumption is the silent force that shapes every aspect of your life. It works whether you are aware of it or not, forming the lens through which you view yourself, others, and the world around you. What you assume to be true about your capabilities, your worth, your relationships, your future, becomes the framework that reality uses to structure itself around you. The mind accepts what is imagined with conviction, and once accepted, it seeks out confirmation in the external world, unconsciously bending circumstances to match the inner belief. There is no need to force outcomes or fight against what is. Instead, you choose a new assumption and live in the state of its fulfillment. You do not wait for evidence. You become the evidence by dwelling in the feeling of the assumption already fulfilled. Whether you assume success or failure, abundance or scarcity, love or rejection, life will respond accordingly. The outer world has no choice but to mirror back to you the dominant beliefs you carry within. This power lies not in effort or struggle, but in stillness and certainty. The moment you adopt a new assumption and persist in it, everything begins to shift, even if nothing seems to change right away. The assumption sets the tone. You begin to think different thoughts, feel new emotions, and make choices in alignment with your new inner reality. People respond differently to you. Opportunities arise. The structure of your life begins to reflect the content of your chosen belief. The process is subtle but profound. You do not wish for something to be true. You assume that it is already so. You don't ask whether it's logical or realistic. You accept it as your reality now, and in doing so, you activate a deeper creative law that organizes the world to reflect your inner state. The assumption becomes the seed, and if you water it with attention and conviction, it must grow. It must show itself in form. You do not need permission. You do not need validation. You simply need to assume that what you desire is already yours, and stay there. Feeling is the secret. Because it is the bridge between thought and reality, it is not enough to merely think about what you want or to repeat affirmations without conviction. What gives those thoughts power is the emotion behind them, the felt experience of already having, being, or doing what you desire. Feeling is what impresses the subconscious mind, and the subconscious is what creates your world. It does not respond to logic, effort, or struggle. It responds to feeling, and it accepts whatever you emotionally dwell upon as truth. When you feel something deeply, your entire system aligns with it. Your body, your mind, your energy, all begin to operate in harmony with that feeling. If you feel successful, you start acting like someone who is successful. If you feel loved, your actions naturally reflect that inner state. The outer world cannot help but mirror what you consistently feel to be real. That is why a single moment of intense feeling can do more to change your life than years of thought without emotional connection. This does not mean you must force positive feelings all the time. It means you must become aware of what you are feeling most consistently. If you spend your days dwelling in anxiety, fear, or doubt, Those emotions are shaping your experience, even if you are consciously trying to think positively. The key is to shift your inner world by deliberately choosing the feelings that match your desired reality. This can be done through imagination, through quiet reflection, or through simple awareness and redirection. When you imagine a scene that implies your wish is fulfilled and allow yourself to feel it vividly, joyfully, peacefully, confidently, you are creating. You are planting the seed of your future in the rich soil of the subconscious. It does not matter if there is no evidence yet. The feeling is the evidence. The feeling is the cause. What you feel you already are, you will become. What you feel you already have will be drawn to you. This is the hidden mechanism behind all transformation. It is why some people seem to attract exactly what they want effortlessly, because they feel it as already theirs. They do not wait for circumstances to change in order to feel different. They feel differently, and the circumstances change. Emotion is the language of the subconscious. When you speak in that language, when you feel the truth of your desire as though it is already real, you awaken the creative power within you, and the world responds. Persistence in the assumption is the difference between fleeting hope and actual manifestation. It's one thing to imagine your desire fulfilled for a moment. It's another to remain in that inner state, regardless of what the outer world shows you. The mind often wants immediate evidence, instant gratification, or constant reassurance. But the creative power of consciousness doesn't respond to impatience. It responds to sustained belief. When you persist in the assumption that what you desire is already yours, you are holding steady in a state that reality must eventually reflect. This persistence is not forceful or rigid. It's quiet confidence, a knowing that doesn't waver when nothing seems to change. The outer world might present delays, contradictions, or even opposition, but none of that matters when the inner world is firmly anchored. To persist means to return again and again to the feeling of your wish fulfilled, to walk through your day as the version of yourself who already has what you desire. This consistency impresses the subconscious mind more deeply than any one-time visualization ever could. You are not reacting to what is. You are creating what will be by refusing to accept anything that contradicts your inner truth. Even if doubt arises, even if old patterns try to reassert themselves, you gently bring yourself back to the assumption you've chosen. You do not need to fight with the evidence around you. You simply ignore it as final and continue to feel, think, and act from the end you've already claimed. Over time, the energy of that assumption becomes stronger than the old reality, and the world begins to rearrange itself accordingly. Persistence is power. It means not giving in to appearances. It means choosing your inner world over external conditions and remaining loyal to that vision until it materializes. Nothing is more powerful than a mind that refuses to abandon its imagined truth. The world will always reflect the state you occupy most consistently. So if you want a new experience, you must live in the new assumption until it becomes more real to you than what you see with your eyes. And when that tipping point is reached, change becomes inevitable. You are the operant power, which means that nothing and no one outside of you has control over your reality. The creative force that shapes your life does not exist in other people, in circumstances, or in luck. It exists within your own consciousness. Everything begins with you. The power to imagine, to feel, to assume, and to persist lies in your hands, and it is this inner activity that determines the outer results. There is no external authority deciding your fate. The authority is you, and once you truly accept this, you begin to live differently. Taking full responsibility for your reality can be confronting, because it means you can no longer blame the world for what is happening in your life. But at the same time, it is the most liberating realization there is. You are not a victim of chance or someone else's decisions. You are the one directing your experience through what you entertain mentally and emotionally. The thoughts you repeatedly think, the states you dwell in, the assumptions you hold, these are the forces that mold your life. This truth does not change depending on your background, circumstances, or past. It applies to everyone equally. You do not need special knowledge or permission to use this power. You simply need to become aware of it and begin using it consciously. When you shift your inner conversations, your beliefs, and your reactions, the world outside must respond accordingly. There is no exception. Life becomes the mirror of the state you sustain within yourself. Being the operant power also means that no technique, no ritual, and no method will work unless you believe in it. The power is not in the tools, it's in you. Any method is only a vehicle for directing your own creative energy. You decide what is true for you. You decide what you accept, what you reject, and what you allow to grow in your mind. The moment you stop giving your power away to circumstances or other people, you begin to consciously create a new experience. Your inner world is always first. The outer world follows. You are not here to wait, to hope, or to seek approval. You are here to realize your own creative authority and exercise it boldly. The world reflects back not what you deserve in some abstract sense, but what you claim to be true through your persistent inner state. You are the cause, the center, the origin, and the moment you own that truth, everything changes. Mental rehearsal is not just a passive activity or a comforting escape. It is the very act of creation. When you imagine a desired outcome in vivid detail and engage with it emotionally, you are doing far more than visualizing. You are creating the blueprint that your outer world will eventually follow. The mind does not distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced. It responds to the feeling and imagery you consistently feed it, and those impressions are accepted by the subconscious as reality. Through repetition of these inner scenes, you condition yourself into a new state of being. You begin to think, feel, and act in alignment with what you've imagined, even before there is any external evidence. This is how transformation begins, not with effort in the outer world, but with focused experience in the inner world. Mental rehearsal allows you to rehearse success, fulfillment, love, abundance, or healing until those states become natural to you, until they feel familiar and normal. And when they do, life conforms. Every time you replay a scene in your mind where your goal is already accomplished, you are reinforcing the belief that it is not only possible but present. You begin to embody the version of yourself who already lives that reality. Your decisions change, your reactions shift, your confidence grows. Not because the world changed first, but because your inner script changed. What was once foreign becomes familiar, and what was once hoped for becomes assumed. Mental rehearsal is most powerful when it's done with emotion and immersion. It's not about simply watching a mental movie. It's about stepping into it, hearing the sounds, feeling the emotions, touching the environment. You become the actor, not just the observer. And as you repeat this process, you begin to live from that state throughout your day. You carry its energy into your thoughts, conversations, and choices. This practice doesn't require hours of meditation. A few moments of deeply felt imagination, done consistently, are more powerful than hours of shallow repetition. The key is belief and emotion. When you feel it real, when you experience it as now, you are laying the groundwork for its physical arrival. What you rehearse mentally, you prepare yourself to receive. The outer world will move to fill in the shape you've constructed within. The moment you begin to concern yourself with how something will happen, you step out of the creative state and into doubt. The how belongs to the unseen, to the deeper intelligence of life that orchestrates events with a precision the conscious mind cannot comprehend. Your role is not to figure out the mechanics of your desire's arrival, but to align yourself with the end result, to dwell in the state where it is already done. When you attempt to control the process or predict the steps, you limit the infinite ways through which your desire could come to pass. The need to understand how often stems from fear, from a lack of trust in the invisible process. But creation does not require your effort in assembling the path. It requires your faith in the outcome. The conscious mind is limited in scope. It works through logic, past experience, and linear thinking. The creative power within you, however, is not bound by those rules. It can move people, circumstances, and events in ways that defy understanding. When you interfere by obsessing over how it will unfold, you interrupt that flow. Letting go of the how is not laziness. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that your job is to define the end clearly and assume its fulfillment with confidence. The bridge of incidents that connects where you are now to that end will appear naturally. You may be prompted to act, to make a call, to take a step. But those actions will come from inspiration, not desperation. They will feel natural, not forced, and often the actual unfolding will come through means you never expected. When you trust in the unseen, you free yourself from anxiety. You begin to rest in the knowing that what you desire is already yours in the unseen realm, and that everything necessary to bring it into form is already in motion. The universe responds to your state, not to your struggle. When you maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the means will reveal themselves at the right time in the right way, often better than you could have planned. This is why detachment from the how is essential. It keeps you focused on what matters most, your inner state. The clearer you are about the end, and the more faithfully you dwell in that end, the less relevant the details of the journey become. You no longer need to know how, because you already know the outcome. And when the outcome is felt as real, the path must rise to meet you. Living in the now of fulfillment means embodying the reality of your desire as if it is already here, already yours, already complete. It is not waiting or hoping or projecting the fulfillment into some distant future. It is anchoring it in this present moment. You shift your awareness from the state of longing to the state of being. In your imagination and feeling, you are already living the result. The desire is not something you're reaching for. It's something you're living from. When you live in the now of fulfillment, your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors begin to reflect this inner reality. You no longer question when or how it will happen, because it has already happened in your consciousness. You are no longer seeking confirmation in the outer world, because the confirmation is already within. This inner alignment with your fulfilled desire is what brings about its manifestation. The world responds not to what you want, but to the version of yourself that you consistently occupy. This practice requires discipline, not in forcing the outer world to change, but in refusing to return to the state of lack. You remind yourself gently and persistently that the desire has already been realized within you. You allow yourself to feel the gratitude, confidence, and relief that naturally arise when something you longed for is finally yours. These feelings are not pretended, they are chosen. You deliberately generate them until they become your natural state. By living in the now of fulfillment, you break the habit of postponing happiness, love, security, or success. You stop waiting for a condition to be met before you give yourself permission to feel complete. Instead, you start with the feeling of completion, and the external conditions begin to align. This reversal of the usual order is the key. Life is not lived forward and understood backward. It is created from within and then observed in form. This is not delusion, it is conscious creation. It is the understanding that reality flows from state, and the only moment in which you can create is now. When you inhabit the state of fulfillment in the present, you merge with the version of yourself who already has the life you desire. That version is not out of reach. It is already within you, waiting to be assumed. And when you assume it fully, without doubt or delay, the world must rearrange itself to reflect the truth you have claimed.